All right, you actuary nerds. It is an unusually mild January evening here in Adams County, Ohio in 2023. So the big spike, what I want to see if we can establish some commonly accepted facts. So the sauce was rolled out in 2021. There was a firestorm of controversy. It was pushed very aggressively, and we pretty much can agree on that. And also, we know from this is certainly well established. Around September of 2021, we saw a very pronounced spike in deaths. So there's a very logical conclusion to make that the sauce killed a bunch of people, which, and on the surface, that seems pretty plausible. But you always want to be careful about jumping to conclusions in cases like this. So you want to think, well, what are some other alternatives? And I wasn't really paying attention that much then. I don't have a TV. I live way off grid and don't have much contact with the outside world. But apparently, this Delta variant was pretty severe, and that hit right at that time, September of 2021. So now you have that as a candidate as well. So we got to look into it a little closer. So I was looking at the Society of Actuaries report that they put out August 17th, 2022. And page 9 has some very illuminating graphs on it. And basically, it starts in 2020 and rolls out through like into 2022. And they more or less graph the death rates for different age groups. And they have it broken out by people over 65, and then they have maybe 3 or 4 other brackets for people under 65. And starting with the people, the group that are over 65, their graph, you see a couple, well, I guess there were 2 main spikes in 2020. Well, we know what that was. That was when the sickness set in. And then in September of 2021, we saw a bump up again in deaths for these people over the age of 65. But it is noteworthy that the 2021 spike did not go as high as the 2020 spike. And we know in 2020, no one had the sauce. And by September of 2021, the 65-year-olds, from what I understand, 90% of them had the sauce. So, and you can see that apparently the death was muted quite a bit. Really, you have to conclude that the sauce provided a lot of protection from the sickness, probably at least 70% reduction in the incidence of sickness, and it could be way more than that. So, but then, well, let's look at the people who are under 65, and unlike the over 65s, when we get to the spike in 2021, the death spiked even higher than the bumps that we saw in 2020. So you have to ask yourself, what's going on? These people got the sauce too, except they really didn't. They got it later, and I don't think they ever accepted it to nearly the degree that the 65-year-olds. I suppose they were half sauced by the time September 2021 came along. And you could have had a lot of people who got the sauce in August of 2021, and before they could get their booster, they got infected with this Delta, and it killed them. So just to just rehash what I said here, we can say with a high degree of confidence that the sauce provides quite a bit of protection from the sickness. And we can also conclude from what we saw that the sauce does not kill large amounts of people. So, okay, obviously we hear a lot of anecdotes. There's a lot of smoke, stories about people getting the sauce and dying, 15-year-old kids dying in basketball practice. And again, I know it's anecdotal, but I kind of think there is something to that. But I want to make the point that, at least theoretically, the sauce could kill 1 in 5,000 people, and in those graphs, you wouldn't be able to see it. It'd be invisible. But I wouldn't be surprised if the sauce killed 1 in 10,000 or something. But again, I'm speculating. And then, what did the sauce do? Apparently it's impaired quite a few people. It didn't kill them. But who knows? But I guess my point is, well, the other thing I wanted to get at was who was protected by the sauce. Because we all know who was affected by the sickness. It was older people and or people who had comorbidities, which is a huge percentage of the U.S. population, let's be honest. And by the way, did you see that there were studies showing that plant-based eaters had way less risk of bad effects from the sickness? So and comment down below, how many, say under 50, healthy vegans who are on a good vegan diet, which isn't very many of them, and maybe they're reasonably fit, how many of those do you know who died? I can tell you that I'm 53 and I've been vegan since '07. And if the authorities came over here and thought that I needed to get the sauce, you can use your imagination as to how that might turn out.